What's going on, YouTube? My name is Venator, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. In today's video, we are going to be going over a very special topic: how to grow one of these, a Prime Tyrannosaurus Rex, the apex of apex predators on this island. The Tyrannosaurus is probably one of the most difficult dinos to grow. I don't know if it's harder than Dino, but it definitely has its own quirks, just like everything else. And so, in today's guide, I'm going to try and do my best to show you guys how I grow this. But remember, this is just my opinions. This isn't the best or set way by any means to do so, just what I find works the best. This video will be split up into chapters based off of weight, because how long the Rex takes to grow, the various weight changes and stat changes greatly affect how you play this awesome dino. In each chapter, I will be discussing strategies, tips and tricks, and honestly, when I even play this dino in relation to how full the server is, because all these things change a lot throughout the lifespan of your Rex. Starting out as a fresh spawn, you will typically spawn in one of these 4 locations. At least, these are the spots that I have spawned in: Central Jungle, Highlands, Swamps, and West Rail. And regardless of spawn, I start out my Rex the same every single time. Find the nearest large bush and sit there until your hunger drops at least below 50%. I typically will let it drop under 20%. Once you are around that range, I will go and try and scavenge my first meal. Because there is no AI to hunt, only AI drops on petites. This is the most dangerous and vulnerable stage in your life. Because of this, I always do this during the low pop hours, lowering the risk of getting caught. And don't get greedy. Here, I had found a boar, but as soon as I started eating, I heard some aloes nearby and left just in time. You have to remember, as a fresh spawn, you are basically one of the weakest and slowest things in the game. This stage is where the majority of people will die. Eventually, you will hit your first mutation, and for this, I always take slower diet drain. It does not take much at all to be able to trigger this, and as a small Rex, your hunger already drops insanely slow as it is. So I generally do not take slower hunger drain until later in life, but I will leave the mutations up to you. Everyone has their own personal preference, as there are great cases to make for a lot of the mutations. Rinse and repeat this process until you have made it to 500 kilograms. And remember, the most important rule at this size: don't risk it. Here, I smelled some A. My food was low enough, and I could use a water fill up as well. So I was making my way up this hill that is also near Landslide Lake, and when I got close to this A, I spotted some aloes, and I got super lucky that they didn't see me. Remember, most Isle players' vision is based on movement, so if you just freeze in a bush, sometimes you will go completely unnoticed. And like you guys have heard me say so many times on Dino, Rex is no different. Growing and playing with a partner is so much easier and safer than going it alone. Here, we found this corpse that still had organs near West Rail Pond, and my partner was willing to risk it for the food since we were both about to starve. But this is where I got too greedy and it almost cost me my life. I heard a Hera up there in the tree above me, but I wanted to get these organs down as fast as possible. So instead of carrying one off to the safety of the jungle, I ate right there. I got super lucky that that Hera wasn't fully grown, or I would have been dead. After healing my bleed, we smelled some bee, and had hit a few growth ticks, so we needed to fill up again. And then, after we ate it, it was back to the bush to sit and heal and grow. Once I had completely healed and let my hunger drop all the way down, it was time for more scavenging, and I found a few corpses with organs still in them. This would get me to the next phase. And I won't lie to you, there is a certain amount of luck involved growing a Rex. Sometimes you get lucky with food and not being found, and other times, like you are about to see, you are not. Once you make it over the 500 kilogram mark, this is where things drastically change. you are heavy enough to kill small dinos, and most importantly, your speed is over 50 kilometers an hour, so you can outrun most things. But you are not invincible. Here, just as I was about to head out, I got caught by another Rex, who just so happened to be just ahead of me in his growth. So he was a couple hundred kilos heavier than me and faster. Like Dino, you will die to other Rexes, oftentimes for no other reason than just because. Anyway, as I was saying, once you are over the 500 kilogram mark, this is when you can start moving around the map. And at this point, you can play during high or low pop. It's during this phase that I travel around and hit all of my MZs, PZs, and stop in a sanctuary. And for me personally, I almost always try to end this phase on the east side of the map. Currently, the west side and central parts of the map are much more dangerous. South Plains, West Rail, Highlands, and Delta are full of larger carnivores or packs of herbivores that will gladly kill you on sight. Remember, once you are stung by the bees in the sanctuary, that means you have completed that prime task and are good to move on. Even though you are not entirely defenseless, at this point in your grow, I still highly recommend scavenging and finding safe food as the best method for growing. Here, I was lucky enough to find a boar in the secluded eastern side of the map. So as long as this boar was here, I would fill up and go to a bush, grow in safety, and repeat this process until this easy meal was either entirely devoured or rotten. And if you're going to sit close to your food, make sure you are at least far enough away that things won't find you in the direct vicinity of whatever you're feasting on. But you were by no means locked into playing the Bush Wookiee style. After growing to around 1,500 kilograms and my hunger below that halfway mark, I ventured out north to the sanctuary by East Lake to hunt small dinos. I typically like to wait until you're at least 1,500 to 1,600 kilograms to start actively hunting this way. That way, you are able to compete against Sarahs and Carnos as long as they are solo. Just remember though, in this phase, your speed will top out around 57 kilometers an hour and then start to drop as you gain more weight. So be aware of what you can and can't run from. Once you reach 1,900 kilograms, this is where your next phase will begin. It's at this point where you will make a huge jump in weight, going from 1,900 kilograms to 2.7 tons. So be sure that you are around food when this happens. If you aren't over half on food, it will really get you low. And when you're this size, compounds are a great place to scavenge, especially for AI drops. Because even when you are a little bigger, like I am here, boar are still very good meals to find. Just be careful. Bigger carnivores and herbies tend to congregate at these compounds. Having hit 2.7 tons, you will be one tick away from 50% in your second mutation. This is where the Rex gameplay significantly changes. As you can see, my speed was only 36 kilometers an hour, so you can be caught by all manner of things. And while you aren't the smallest, you are still very vulnerable at this stage. During this phase, I highly recommend playing safe and staying around the East Lake area, scavenging and hunting small dinos where you can. And at 50%, you get your second mutation. This is where I take slower hunger drain. That way, combined with slower diet drain, I can play a lot more careful and safer, not having to risk as much searching for food while you grow. And like I said, I still scavenge a lot even this far in, and I will typically still only play at mid to lower pop times unless I'm really hurting for food. Playing during high population time is just very risky and one of the main reasons why people die at this size. And the rule of don't risk it still applies. Here, I was walking down the beach looking for food when these 4 Serratos found me. And while I was just over 3 tons, I was not confident that I could take 4 of them. I could easily kill a few of them, but was it worth the risk? I didn't think so. So I hid in a bush and gave them the slip since I had the cover of night and a thunderstorm to help hide my tracks and cover up my sound. I also didn't want to risk throwing up since I was already low on food and water. As a Rex, a very important rule is to just know when to run away. You won't be able to kill everything until you are really big, and even then, there are still some fights you just don't want to take. So you gotta play it smart and play it safe. This is what separates the new players from the experienced Rex players. Rex players that have been around a long time will know when to fight and when to run. After more scavenging and growing, I was finally large enough where I felt comfortable leaving the safety of the jungle. I was making my way around water access when I came across a galley, an awesome meal for a growing Rex. Especially in this case, because all through this grow, I was having horrible luck with diet. As you could tell, my diets have been nearly empty this entire time. Once in the 4 to 5 ton range, you can try your hand at ambush hunting in high traffic areas. I set up at the dam and was able to get this small dibble, and while not a ton of food, my diets were still not good at all, so any little bit helps. Don't want to risk going infertile and losing that prime status. I then moved north to the North Jungle Sanctuary, where I encountered my first big test. I desperately needed some diet, and this is where I took my first big risk, fighting a raptor pack. A group of good raptors could easily kill a lone Rex like myself. The strategy here being that I have to kill the bigger ones first, so I let them pounce on me. And when you start bucking, make sure to target the largest ones and then worry about the remainder. I didn't play this the best, but lucky for me, since half the pack wasn't large, I was able to work through them and get rid of the big ones. I was able to work through them and get rid of the big ones. After killing half the pack, that made the remaining 3 back off. Now I had ample food and organs to sit here and continue my grow. After crossing the 5.1 ton threshold, I was now a medium-sized Rex, and my footsteps had changed from the quiet light thumps to the loud thundering stomps that everyone knows. So finding hunting spots that bigger Rexes don't frequent can be pretty tough. I moved to the area between highlands and water access to ambush hunt at this bridge. Getting this Carno was huge for me since my diet was really bad. And from the 5.1 ton range to 9.6, your biggest threat now is other Rexes and Stegos. Stegos are absolute Rex killing machines. They have the stam and sprint speed to run you down at this size. And with their insane bleed, you won't last but a few minutes against them. The only time you should engage a Stego or Trike at this size is if they are 1, solo, and 2, you are certain that you are larger than they are. As for your strategy for this phase, I like to hunt around the jungles of Landslide Lake and West Rail Pond. Just keep stacking kills and getting those diets as high as you can. Here, I found this tenno who kept messing with me. Unbeknownst to me, he had a nest near the lake, and all it took was one pass too close to me and he was done. After filling up my water, I spotted his partner, this tenno, and then I was able to get him too. Now, my food was running over, and I had plenty of organs to get my diets nice and high. A great strategy when you have a surplus of food is to use it as bait to draw more carnivores in, like this Sarah. And another good tip is to set up around a spot that has gastros. That way you can quickly lower your hunger to fill those diets up even faster. Just keep killing and playing safe for the remainder of this phase. If you are good on food, there is no real reason to move around the map, especially if you've already done your prime tasks while you were in your fast phase, like I talked about earlier. Once you are around 9 tons, you are basically there, and if you have a partner, you can really start hunting. Up in West Rail, we came across these stegos, and they stood no chance. This food would get us all the way to prime and allow us to sit and continue to grow and hunt around this little puddle. But just because you were 9 tons does not mean you are invincible. You still have a long way to go. There's a big difference between 12.3 tons and 9.6 tons. And there we have it, finally hitting full adult. We have now became a Prime Tyrannosaurus Rex. For my last 2 mutations, I take osteosclerosis. This way, when fighting other Rexes, it takes an additional crush bite to leg break you. And then I take traumatic thrombosis. That way, after a fight with stegos, you can sit down and not worry about bleeding out. And from this point on to 12.3 tons, all you really need to do is avoid fighting larger Rexes and larger trikes. Most prime stegos will avoid you from this size onward unless there's 3 of them, but they are slower than you, and at that size, you can just run away. You are now in the funnest phase of Rex, the killing machine size. And that pretty much concludes this video. And that's how I grow a Rex. Like I said at the beginning, there is no actual best way to grow a Rex. This is just my methodology and what I think works the best for me. And hopefully this helps you guys as well. So thank you for watching. I will see you all next time, and happy hunting.